It was on a loudspeaker thing, yeah.
Yeah.
They're talking across the room and stuff. It's crazy, man.
I'm just gonna tweet the link out. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, Christ. There we go. Start one. Damn, West Ham really killed off our top 6 opportunity, bro. I was excited. I was excited for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was never happening, man. I knew that was never happening.
When you guys ready, just well,
I'm ready.
Not you, Leroy, but yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's go. Hello, welcome to another Touchy Gooners podcast. My name is Lewis. I'm joined by I'm joined by Sean. Sean, how you doing, man?
Yeah, what's going on, man? All good.
And I've got Leroy in the building. How you doing, man? Welcome back to the pod.
Long time no speak, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good to have you back, man. I'm glad. I'm excited about this.
I'm back. It's been a while. Just been getting pammed at work, but I'm back, man. Everyone can just die. I don't get anymore.
I ain't editing.
All right. I'm playing around people anyway.
Guys, before we start, obviously, if you aren't already, follow Touchy Gooners on Twitter. Touchline Fracas, we deserve some 5-star reviews on the iTunes Apple app, actually. So if you haven't left a review, go and do that now. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe and like. Literally takes 3 seconds of your time. So that would be very much appreciated if you could do that. Yeah, I think that's a bit. Oh, and then obviously we got the Patreon. We got Touchy Gooners Patreon. Listen, I know things are down with Arsenal at the moment, but listen, Touchy Gooners, we're going to be providing you some content over the summer. We've got some ideas. We got some ideas what we're gonna bring you. So sign up to the Patreon to keep your summer Arsenal packed. You can sign up to our Patreon for as little as £3 a month. So the link will be in the bio for that. Anyway, guys. 4th win on the bounce. I did want to start this whole conversation with, hey, can we make top 6? But no, West Ham have other ideas and decided not to bottle it away to West Brom. So, Europa Conference League, lads. How are you feeling about that? Because it looks like that could be a real possibility, just looking at the fixtures. And, obviously we have to win our last game to make this happen. But, there's the opportunity there to get in this Europa Conference, which, well, I say opportunity. I don't think it really is too much of an appealing opportunity. Some might say it's what's the opportunity? What's the opposite to opportunity? Detriment? I don't know.
Ball and chain, embarrassment.
Embarrassment, yeah. But, either way, we may have some European football next season, right? And obviously the opportunity to finish above Spurs, which I myself personally, I would love that to happen because I don't like Spurs. I also didn't like the whole Carlo Ancelotti loving at the start of the season. Oh, Arsenal should have got Carlo, la-di-da-di-da, look at what he's doing, ra-ta-ta, all of that stuff. And you know what? Little Arteta might end up finishing above him in the league. So, yeah, fuck that guy. Anyway, Leroy, let me get you on first because you haven't been on for a few weeks. How are you feeling about how the season is coming to a close? And, is Europa Conference something you're particularly interested in?
Just the season in general. I just feel a bit dejected, man, and a bit apathetic about Arsenal because it's been such a disappointing season all round that it's just sad, man. It's sad to see my club in such a state, and it just makes me unhappy, man. But if I'm honest with you, we know Arteta's not getting sacked. Arteta's going to be here, so all we can hope for is how bad we've been this season is going to be the wake up call for the ownership. And the ownership are going to think, right, we really do need to invest and invest heavily. We might be able to get a blind with the FFP now, not really being a thing with COVID. And we need to invest heavily into the squad this summer. So I'm trying not to buy in and get too optimistic, because that happens every single summer and we do it. But I just hope that they read the message loud and clear. And as for the Europa Conference, I mean, I think it will be more of a hindrance than us. It will distract from our focus, because we really need to focus on the league. It's not like the Europa League where if we win, we can get into the Champions League. So you've got that carrot at the end of the stick. So we really need to just think about the league. So I don't want to be in it. If somehow on the last day we end up in it, I hope they have the sense to treat it as a League Cup type thing. And they just play the under 23s and stuff and use it for blood and young talent, rather than actually sending first team players to Bosnia and Herzegovina playing bin men from flipping whatever country they're from. So I'm not really interested in all that. So I hope that's how they use it to do it. So, and I just feel like in terms of the optics of the club, we've been embarrassed so much that actually turning up in the third tier of European football is embarrassment too far. So I'm really
we could probably do without it. Yeah, is what you're saying.
It's like, it's bad PR.
It's more embarrassing to be in it than to actually not qualify for Europe at all.
Exactly. The other positive though is, even if you get an extra 2 million, that's an extra 2 million we wouldn't have had.
Yeah, I mean, look, the PR coming out of the club is that, well, we don't need Europe to spend money, right? So I'm hoping that they actually show that same energy from when we don't make Europe. Because I don't know how much money we get for this Europa Conference thing. Like, it's no idea, nothing about sponsors or anything like that. Like you said, if we're playing teams from Bosnia, I doubt they're bringing in too much money. I don't know what TV channel it's going to be on, probably on Dave or something like that. So I can't imagine there's too much money in this competition. However, I wouldn't mind it from a squad. So like you said, if we were to use it like an under 23 competition, I wouldn't be adverse to that, because then it would make sense to keep someone like Balogun at the club next season, because I think he'll get plenty of football playing in that competition and along with the cup competitions as well. So whereas if knowing Arteta, he's probably going to go balls to the wall in that competition and bloody fucking play everyone every week. And in that case, I don't want to see it at all. If we treat it like an under 23 competition, I wouldn't mind too much, if I'm being honest. But I hear the embarrassment angle. Sean, what about you? I know you're probably pretty anti this Europa Conference stuff, right? You want us to finish as low as possible.
Don't say that though. He was in flat. No. I agree with both you and Leroy. Essentially, yeah, I think I really don't want to see us in this competition next season. But like you said, if we do end up and we do beat Brighton at home, I think basically Arteta will want to go out with a bang, especially as fans are at the ground on Sunday. So he actually can't afford to lose, like, just because, like you said, the optics has been such a poor season. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of indifference to him. Obviously, he's still got a lot of backers, but with fans, back at the stadium on Sunday as well, I think he will want to put on a performance and win, and that might end up landing us in the Europa Conference. So yeah, if we do get it, it should be used as the opportunity next season just to give Balogun a load of minutes, give Martinelli a load of minutes. Everyone else who's on, all the other youngsters who are on the periphery. Whatever. But no. Yeah, in all seriousness, the aim should be to streamline the squad as much as possible. If we're gonna, even if we're in this competition, we just don't need a big squad next season. We really don't. I think we should be having a core of like 16, 17 players that we're gonna be playing like once a week. It might just be a good chance for us to reset. You've seen with Leicester and Chelsea how they did it, when they had no competitions and they were just playing once a week. It means less rotation, less fatigue. So I expect our best players to be more durable as well over the course of the season. So if we do get it, just let's have the youngsters out, please, and just focus. Next season is so important just to focus on the league.
I wanted to ask you guys a question because obviously I think it's the first time under Arteta we've won 4 league games in a row. I think that was the stat today. So we've won our last 4 league games in a row. It's propelled us up to the grand heights of ninth. It just seems to be like no matter how many games we win, we just can't go any higher than ninth. It's really absurd. But I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the back end to this season, because I'm sure you've seen these tables going around, and these tables have been going on for quite a while. I may or may not be culpable and the main culprit of these tables being passed around since Christmas. But there are these Christmas tables. They have us third in the league over the last 23 games. Right now, of course, let's address it. These tables mean nothing, right? League seasons are 38 games. This is a third of a season, right? But we are third in that league. I want to know from you guys, what do we take from this table? Like, if anything at all, do we take anything from these tables going into next season? Leroy, I'll start with you.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
We take absolutely nothing from this. The thing is, the season is about stamina. It's about consistency and decision-making, consistency and performance, consistency and everything's about consistency. So yes, we have shown for a period of time, but it's such an arbitrary period of time. You could go and pick any run of games because we were looking at 14 games, 13 games, whatever.
Do you not think it's relevant because of the whole ESR thing?
It could be, but then we've had bad runs since then. So we were we were like 4th in the table since Christmas. Then we went down to like 7th or 8th or something like that. Then we went up again because it changes when you have good runs of form and bad runs of form in it. And we're currently on a quote unquote good run of results, I should say, because we won 1 bounce. So I don't really take much from it. I think it's very arbitrary. I don't really. I'm looking at the performances more than anything. And the XG is worrying me if I'm looking at anything data-wise or any data points. We just don't seem to create chances, and we don't seem to really have a team that's cohesive in terms of going forward and attack. And we don't particularly have a team that's particularly solid at the back because we're full of individual mistakes. So there's not really anything that the table can show me that would make me convinced. So like Unai Emery, we went on a 22-game unbeaten run and we were doing okay in the table, but I wasn't convinced then. And it's the same now. I'm not convinced because I'm looking at the team and the team isn't showing me anything that I'm thinking, all right, we've got something to build on. All right, we've got something to work with.
What about if I told you during that period we were 5th in the league in XG created, 3rd in the league in goals scored?
In terms of recently?
So over the last 23 games since Christmas, basically.
So 5th in the league in terms of goals created.
And that's we've played a game less than some of the teams around us as well. So
okay, so I wasn't aware of that data point. That is relatively promising, fair enough. But I know how I felt when I've watched the games, even when I've watched games back when I can, and I'm still not massively convinced. Don't get me wrong. There is a part of me that thinks if we really go ham and upgrade these players, there's something that's still salvageable about this this current tenure. Even though I'm not really a massive fan and I do think we need to change over, I don't think that's realistic. But for example, if we go and spend big money and add, say, a Grealish, add, say, a Basuma, add another midfielder, add a decent right back, add another forward, then yeah, we're in business. But looking at this team and this current performance, I'm not really taking too much from 3rd in the table since Christmas, to be honest.
I hear you. Because it does feel that way, right? Like even watching today's game, I mean, I don't know what the XG score is. I would imagine we were, we probably, based on the chances at the end, we probably did finish with a higher XG than Palace. But it didn't feel like we were. It didn't feel like we were creating anything, and I know we've scored 3 goals, and I know since this year we've actually scored quite a lot of goals in terms of the amount of times we've scored 3 goals in 2021. It's quite a lot, actually. I think it's about as many as Man City have scored. We scored 3 goals, and like I said, we scored the 3rd most in the league since Christmas. So we have scored goals. But you're right. It doesn't feel like we are a particularly cohesive offensive unit. Like, I had no faith in us scoring in the last 15 minutes today. Absolutely no faith at all. I didn't see where the goal was coming from. We couldn't pass forward. And it was just, I don't know. It was just a strange feeling today when we did score the goals, because I was just sort of like, well, I don't really see where that has come from. And it doesn't feel like to me we are a good attacking team, but we seem to score goals, but not enough goals. We're just in a weird place at the moment. Sean, you can maybe extract my thoughts and repackage them in a much better way than I have.
No, I agree. I totally agree with what you said, and I think a lot of it, looking at it, it's still results-driven analysis. Leroy referenced the stuff under Unai Emery when we went 22 games unbeaten, but we didn't like what we saw. So even now, we've had, over the last 23 games, a decent period of form, but I can't sit here and say that I've liked what I've seen. Everyone will even reference the introduction of ESR, and no one likes him more than me. I think he's been great. However, those improved performances, quote unquote, that's from a very, very, very low bar. And if you ask me, I still boil it a lot down to Arteta's system, which I think is just too restrictive. In terms of how he likes with the double pivot, they have to operate behind the ball at all times. He doesn't really allow for too much flexibility or rotation of position, so it becomes harder to build up a head of steam, sustain pressure for long periods of time. So when we do score, like today was, I think the stat has floated about, we pretty much don't score after 75 minutes. Like you said, those goals kind of came from nowhere because it didn't look like, do you know what I mean? I think I saw it said between the 35th and basically injury time, we didn't have a shot, do you know what I mean? So it was, we seem to throw away long periods in games where we're just not doing much. We have a lot of recycled possession, but we don't look threatening. We don't ask players to take enough risks. So it's weird because I'm stuck in a position where I'm like, oh, these players are not moving off the ball enough. Is that down to them or is that down to the coach? But, you saw, like we've often spoken about, Pepe scored a lot of goals running in behind at Lille. Martinelli scored today, from a good ball in behind from Martin Odegaard. So it's hard. It comes back to the positional based game that Arteta's implemented. I just think to a point, I think it's restrictive unless you have the best quality in those positions. So I really hope, because obviously I don't think he's going to change the approach too much. He likes the players in specific zones. We've talked about in the past the 5 lanes of attack, how Arteta likes to set up. So I don't really think that's going to vary or change much. So I just hope that he gets the relevant personnel he wants that will see the improvement, just because otherwise I just don't see how it is going to improve. I just find it a bit too stale for me. I find it very much a bit too stale. So hopefully we'll see. And this is essentially why recruitment is needed, because I just think the only way we're going to see that massive improvement is through an improvement in personnel.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a whole big conversation by itself, isn't it? And I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about the personnel that we do have currently, because there's been some really weird seasons, right? And I want to start with Leroy's favorite player in the world, Nicola Pepe. Yeah,
I hate him.
But Leroy, the goals today were so sick.
It was so good, and that's why I hate him.
Yes, he's very sick, but he's very shit.
He's a joke, man. He was
awful today, by the way. Absolutely awful, but so decisive. That goal at the end was fantastic, but deeply frustrating for the whole game, I thought.
He pisses me off so much, and he's so frustrating because the thing is, what's frustrating about him is you think if you applied yourself even a little bit, you could get so much more out of yourself than you do. Like, you're not amazing. I'm not going to say you're not amazing, but you have a certain degree, some of the things that you can do in terms of your skill set. I'm talking to Pepe like I'm talking to him, like I'm trying to G him up. Some of the things you can do in your skill set can be so important and decisive in football matches, but you are away with the fairies so much that you cannot even bother to apply yourself to actually make the most out of the ability that you have. And that's what's so frustrating because that's that third goal. I was so angry. The goal went in and I was livid. I was thinking, what is wrong with this guy? But he has the ability to do that. That's the thing. So
that was his 8th league goal of the season. And yes, that doesn't sound like a lot, but considering he hasn't started much, I mean, it's the same amount as James Maddison. James Maddison's got 8 goals this season. Richarlison's got 7. You know, Greenwood's got 7. Werner's got 6. These are players who have been playing the whole season. You know, starting practically the whole season. And, you know, you've got Pepe, who I'm not even sure Arteta rates. Like, are you confident Arteta rates him? Because I'm not.
But one thing, shout out Nigeria and Dan, for paying out early. You shouldn't pay out early on your bets, bro. Don't cash out.
You would have been shitting it, innit?
I would have been absolutely shook going into
but wait, what was your bet? Wasn't it 7 and 7? Like 14.
So 14 goal contributions.
Oh no.
He's not there. He's only got like.
He's only got 9. Yeah. He's only got 1 assist.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. He's only got 1 assist. So you got there by the hair on your skin, on your chinny chin. But
it's really frustrating because I feel like even though I don't think he's a sensational player, he has qualities. But if he doesn't have the mental attributes to apply his qualities in any kind of consistent way, and that's the most frustrating thing, especially for the amount we paid for him. So you just cannot depend on him whatsoever. You never know what's going to turn up. And the thing is, especially a lot of the time in these games, like the Europa League, like he'll seem to ball out for some reason, or at least be decisive. And he was decisive again today, and it's really, really frustrating. But to be honest, the good thing is I hope he retains a bit of value because then we may be able to sell him because of these types of performances.
Well, to be honest, this season I think he's probably helped to salvage a little bit more value than he had before. So I think if we probably put him on the market now, you'd probably have a few clubs looking at him again. I think compared to where we were last season, I do agree with Leroy. I think the frustrating thing as well is that he just, for me, his skill set is, be in and around. Like, obviously, I'm not saying he is Salah, but you see how Salah knows what he's about, and Salah wants to run in behind. Salah wants to get on the end of things, and Salah wants to score at every single opportunity. And I think if Pepe, if he was able to mark his game on a similar sort of approach, I think he could be very effective because, like I said, for all his flaws, and God knows he has a lot of them, he can score goals. And he's actually, for me, I would actually say, apart from Aubameyang, I'd say for me, he's the second most reliable finisher. Like, I generally actually think he's a decent finisher, like in front of goal. Do you know what I mean? So even like his first goal, which was on his weaker right foot, that wasn't an easy chance. And he took that very, very well as well. So it is frustrating with him because I look at someone like Federico Chiesa at Juventus, who is just so active. He has that complete sort of profile you like for a wild player. He's fast, he's intense, he runs in behind, he looks into combine. And I just think sometimes Pepe, he's not always switched on to the game. Like, I even remember actually what his dad said when he was moving to Arsenal. He said Pepe needs to be serious about football, and that, sometimes you do question just whether he is serious enough as well. So I just wish he could apply himself a bit more. And I think probably Arteta, he said that in his post-match comments as well. He said, like, once he switched in, he can be very effective. So,
well, I know you guys are talking about selling him, but his first season was abject, right? I think we can all sit here and we can all put our hands up and say we got it wrong with Pepe. We came around in different variations of time, but we're all kind of sitting at the same table with Pepe now. But he got 8 goals in his first season, which wasn't great. But he's had like a 75% markup in terms of goals this season. He's improved on his league tally. He's improved on his all comps tally. What's to say that Pepe can't add to that next season, get into double digits in the Premier League and hit maybe 20 next season all comps? What's to say that he can't do that?
I
guess I'm asking, is this the cap? Is this the most we can expect of Pepe? Or is there another level for him to get to? Because if he plays, he scores. This is the thing. He's probably 1 in 2 from when he does actually maybe not 1 in 2, maybe around 1 in 3. Actually, let me not exaggerate. Probably about 1 in 3 from when he actually does start and score.
Well, the thing is, right, when you start to step up a level, every level you start to step up, it becomes more difficult. I think we do have to relax with his all comp stats because a lot of them have been in Europa League against like nonsense teams. So he's got 8 league goals. So the league is a good barometer because you have a more consistent and a reasonable level of quality. So 8 goals is not bad, but he's a forward. So Maddison, I wouldn't really class as a forward. He's been playing in a 4-3-3 in midfield really this season. So 8 goals is mediocre. Let's be real.
But it's 8 goals in about what 13 starts.
So what in terms of? But he's come on. How many goals score off the bench? And he's probably come off the bench.
Well, I don't know. I would imagine most of his goals come when he starts, though, right? How many? I remember too many times he's come off the bench to score.
He's had enough minutes though. 8 goals. I mean, I'm not seeing 8 league goals.
Yeah, it's 8 goals in 1,500 minutes. So whatever that is, that's let me have a look. That is a goal every 190 minutes. Yeah, so he's 1 in 2.
Okay, so that's not bad. That's not bad for a wide player. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. But to make that next step and become, say, a 2 in 3 wide player, that's difficult. That's difficult. So I don't really think he's got it in him, and also he's not going to have the Europa League to stat pad next season. So I don't really see him getting anywhere near 20 goals in all comps. Particularly in Europe.
What about you?
So first things first, I don't think we are going to sell him. That was just me saying. I think he's probably held some value this season. I don't think we will sell him. Yeah, the target for him is to push on again. Like I said, I think how I would proportion the blame, I think it's about 50-50 in terms of I think he could do more. But I also, like I said, I think the system is very restrictive for a lot of players as well. And obviously, like Leroy said, next season he's only going to have the Prem. But it just depends how much we improve the team around him. If we're a team that can create chances at a regular rate of not, then he's more likely to score. Do you know what I mean? So he's a scorer, basically. I mean, obviously, the goal today he created himself, so he can do that as well. But I think systematically, do you know what I mean? All our forwards are going to be reliant on the service into them. So for me, it's reliant on what we do in the midfield in the summer. So in terms of, you know, where we spend and how we choose to spend. So that will dictate what I say for our forwards next season. So yeah, round the way, I think if he stayed, he could probably get 10 goals next season in the league.
Which would be a decent contribution, right? Another player I want to talk about actually was Ødegaard. Got his first assist today. You know, well, I've been banging on about it. You know,
your agenda against him has been nasty.
I don't care, Sean.
It's been absolutely disgusting. Like you actually have no manners. Like
I don't care.
It's like like good footballers. He went from Özil to chatting rubbish. As soon as he's another good footballer with a bit of skills, he goes chatting rubbish again.
All right, Leroy, you told me we signed Ødegaard in January. I told you that come end of May, he's got 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 big chance created. Would you have been happy with that?
I will tell you exactly the same thing that I told you with Özil, and we've been arguing since about 2012 about. I don't judge players like that on goals and assists and statistics.
What about chances created? He's a chance creator, eh?
Oh, he is, but I judge him in his overall impact on the team.
And how's his overall impact on the team been?
It's been up and down.
I would say mostly down.
I wouldn't say mostly down at all. I'd say up and down, but overall he's been decent.
I just don't agree with you. I think today was the most he's done since the West Ham game. The West Ham game was what, 4 to 5 weeks ago? 6 weeks ago, maybe?
Maybe.
He was out injured for what, a week, 2 weeks. So I'll give him that. He hasn't done fuck all.
Since he come back off his injury, he's not been great. But before his injury, we definitely saw a good player there, in my opinion.
Would you keep him?
100%.
And how much would you be prepared to pay for him?
I would definitely pay up to 50 mil.
Really?
Yeah.
Sean doesn't look as confident as you.
No.
How old is he? 23.
Yeah, he's 22. No, so I would still buy him. I
50?
I would probably pay between 30-40. But I pay 30. I pay 30 to 40. But so my only issue with him is that I do think sometimes I do look at him and I'm just like, I just want a bit more intensity in the midfield. Like I just want, like, make yourself a bit easier to find in terms of the because he tends to stay just in that right half space. Obviously, I think that's partly instruction, but if you look at him when he was at Sociedad, that's kind of like where he likes to be anyway. And obviously he looks for that slip ball in through and behind or over the top. So I would just like a bit more, I don't know, because when I look at him, I don't know, like, if he played in a 4-3-3, if he could play as a right-sided eight. Obviously, we tried it against Villarreal in the second leg. I don't think that was necessarily his fault because I thought the spacing was really off in that game anyway, and we didn't press. But yeah, he looks to me more like a pure 10 rather than someone, you know, I just like a bit more versatility and adaptability. Like when I look at ESR, I think I could easily play him in a midfield three, and I think he would be fine. I sometimes have, you know, sort of iffy thoughts about that with Martin. I still do really like him though, and at the end of the day, I think we need his quality, and I think he's got a lot of it. But when I look at, you know, adaptability in terms of flipping from formation to formation, or, you know, say one game he's playing as a 10, next game maybe from the right, because like against Chelsea, I thought he really struggled away in that game. I mean, to be fair, the whole team did, but he probably because he has that lack of intensity. One thing that Ozil did have actually as well was that Ozil was deceptively very quick. Odegaard isn't quick like, at all. Do you know what I mean? So he's not quick at all, which is why obviously it's a risk. But I do still really like Michael Elise, and I think he's got a bit more versatility and adaptability. Obviously, he's not as, you know, I don't think he's got as much quality at the moment as Odegaard, but that would be someone I would look at as well as a possible option.
Yeah, look, I think there's a balanced conversation to be had with Odegaard, right? And sometimes I feel like we're not being as balanced. There's some agendas flying around. I don't know where the agendas are coming from, right? People are blaming me, but it's not me, all right? It's not me. I just want there to be a fair and balanced conversation. So, for example, there's always this ESR Odegaard talk, and they definitely can coexist, right? I don't know if they can coexist in the same team. I'm not too sure how that works. I think we've seen it a few times. It's been up and down, right? It's been up and down. But what I would say about Odegaard is that if Emil Smith-Rowe was playing 10 at that moment when for the goal to Martinelli, we don't score today, I don't think. That is what Odegaard does. That Ozil type ball. I think he's very similar to Ozil. I think some people don't like that comparison, say it's a lazy comparison. I disagree. I think they play football quite similarly. Yes, they're not replicas of each other, but I think they play the game very similarly. They have very similar skill sets, and that pass is something Ozil would look to do all the time. We would score so many goals from that kind of looped in pass. It's impossible to defend against because it's gone right over to the defender's heads, right on the attacker's feet, and luckily Martinelli, great, well, I don't know, more luck than judgment on the touch maybe, but good awareness to stick it in the back of the net in the end. But yeah, I think there's a balanced conversation to have. Me personally, I'm not going to be running to the hills to sign him for any more than 30 million personally, because I just don't know if I don't think he can be as influential for us as we need him to be. And I'm not paying 50 to 60 million on someone to give us what he's given us since joining. I'm sorry, Leroy.
Don't get me wrong. If we could, even though I think it's completely unrealistic, I would go all out to get Grealish. That's what I do. But if we're not, I'm definitely getting Odegaard ahead of Buendia, who Norwich say they want 40 mil for.
Why is that? Because Buendia is a much more dynamic player. I feel like he would suit us more.
I think Odegaard is miles better.
At what though?
Everything.
I don't think he's better at everything. I think Buendia is a better goal scorer. I think Buendia has shown the ability to create and score. He can play it as an 8.
But I haven't seen Buendia play as an 8.
He played as 8 for Norwich in the Prem.
Norwich,
didn't he?
This season he's mostly played from the right of a 4-2-3-1, so he's like a wide playmaker that comes.
Didn't he play as an 8 in the Prem last season?
Last season played wide all season, and that was what I was saying. I said I'd take Buendia if he could be transformed into an 8, but he didn't play 8. He played wide.
Okay.
So he really played wide, and he's not really been playing in central areas. And I just think Odegaard's quality is clear of them, man. I just think he's different level altogether.
When's he going to start showing it though?
You know, what do you mean? He's already shown it, boy. He's already shown it.
Well, listen, I don't know about that, but it's going to be. I don't know. I'm not too sure if we're too keen on. I think Real Madrid probably want a little bit too much money. Then you know, the loan has worked out in a way that you're able to look at a player for a sustained period of time and make a judgment call on whether you want to pay the fee for him. So in that regard, it's kind of worked out for us. We can make an informed decision. We know Arteta will know what the player is like. Are you taking anything from the fact that he didn't play today as like maybe a sign that Arteta isn't too keen in signing him for the money Real Madrid want? Anything to be made of that, or just tactics?
Don't know. Yeah, I think just tactics. I think Arteta really likes him. I can't lie to you. I think Arteta really, really likes him. The only obviously question to be had is then how do you fit him and ESR into the team at the same time? I think obviously, like we said, they can coexist. We've seen it in the 4-2-3-1. We saw them it worked against Tottenham. It worked. What was that game against Leeds as well? They looked, but I don't really like ESR on the left. I have to be totally honest with you. I think he can do a job there and he can look okay there, but I still don't think that extracts his best qualities. So it raises questions about what Arteta wants, the system he wants. Obviously, he's tried Partey as a lone six. I still think that's an experiment that shouldn't be done away with yet, but it needs work in terms of configuration and the people around him as well. So it just remains to be seen. But the position we're in, I don't think we can be turning our noses up at quality, and I think Odegaard has a lot of it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. 20 million, get it done, lad, get it done. But anything more than that, I'll be looking at it with side eyes, because our boy Willock has been putting up numbers in the Premier League, mate. Yeah, don't you forget that, Sean. All right.
Do you know the thing is? You think I hate Willock? I don't even have anything against him. No. I don't. My thing with him is obviously partly you have to caveat what he's doing at Newcastle, because he's playing in a team that averages less than 40% possession, Lewis, and he's running into massive amounts of space. When he was at Arsenal, he wasn't doing that. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have that space to run into. When he played, he looked like sometimes he was confused about where to stand, what positions to take up. So let's not do this. Do you know what I mean? I'm happy he's doing well. Don't get me wrong. And I actually think one thing I will agree with you. I think Arteta misused him, because when Arteta was playing him as a 10, I didn't agree with that. I think a lot of us didn't agree with that. But I think evidently what we've seen from Arteta is that he doesn't want his pivot to move. Do you know what I mean? So he wants the players to always be playing behind the ball. And, Willock is someone who wants to burst into the box. And I think sometimes maybe for a bit of flexibility that might be needed. But obviously we've seen with Arteta, he doesn't want that at all. And even we've seen with the links in terms of the players we've been linked with, Camavinga, Berge, Bissouma, those are all predominantly behind the ball players again. So it's kind of, he's got qualities of a box-to-box midfielder, but I don't really think Arteta wants that. Do you know what I mean? So
what are we thinking about Willock anyway? Is it? I'm assuming we'll get a bid in the summer, because you can't score 7 in 13 games in the Premier League and someone not come calling. Whether the money will be enough to tempt us, I don't know. I don't know what Newcastle's financial position is going to be, but what would you be happy to sell him for? And at what price would you be like, nah, do you know what? He's probably worth keeping around.
Do you know what? I was initially, when he first went to the loan, I was like 15 to 20 mil. I would take, but you have to be totally honest. This has been probably one of the best Arsenal loans you've ever seen. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
in terms of effectiveness, so I think I would actually try and push towards 25 mil. I wouldn't push like lower than that because of his age. Like, do you know what I mean? 20, 21.
So if Newcastle said 20 million, take it or leave it, what would you say?
If that's the only offer, if that's the only offer, I think I'd still do it. I think I would still do it just because it's good money. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, from a player we've developed and he's cost nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I would do it. I would even probably what I would do, I would have a sell-on clause and I'd have a buyback clause. Both of them. I'd have both of them in there. Because if you're forcing me to accept, what is not an ideal fee, because I think obviously we have to factor in COVID and, do you know what I mean, etc. etc. So if I was forced to accept 20 mil, I would have a sell on clause and a buyback clause as well. I don't know what Diego thinks, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, someone just said it in the comments here. Brewster can go for 25 million, then maybe. But like Leroy always makes this point. The better performing the club is, the more they can sell the players for. Leroy, what's your thoughts on Willock? And would you be inclined to maybe keep him at the club next season, or is it anything we can get, he can go?
No, I'm not on keeping him. I don't think he'll. I don't think he'll be good enough at Arsenal level and where we want to go. Like obviously where we are at the moment isn't where we want to be, fair enough, and I do see the value in keeping homegrown players around that can contribute. However, there is a balance on how much you can contribute and are you a saleable asset, and I feel like at the moment he's probably the most saleable asset of our young players, and I feel that he's not going to be one that we're going to be like, oh man, I wish we kept him. He's not going to be a world beater, and like I say, the kind of value I think we could get for him, I think this is the time that you sell. This is the time that you sell, and you sell this for as much as you can get. If you can get a buyback clause in there as an insurance policy, that's great. If you can't, then you obviously increase the price to compensate that. So I would do 20 million with a buyback clause, if you said. But if they're not doing a buyback clause, I'm sorry, we have to jack up the price because we can't just give these players away.
No, I understand that, and Sean, you raised some interesting points there about the midfielders that we are linked with. I personally feel like we need a midfield goal scoring option, man. I really do feel that way, and none of these guys are.
So like I said, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but obviously we've had a massive sample size of Arteta's 18 months here. So we know in terms of what he likes in terms of the profile and what he likes that double pivot to do. That double pivot never plays ahead of the ball. They're mainly there to recycle, try and break lines, and covering the wide areas in case there's a transition opportunity. So really and truthfully, and this is why sometimes why I'm not too harsh on our offensive players, just because like you, I would agree. I think I would like to stagger the pivot a bit more. I just think it's a bit too restrictive. Because of how Arteta lines up, sometimes the right back is the extra third midfielder there. Tierney's always pushed all the way up, so it's just a bit it's a bit lopsided. But I just feel sometimes we can take a bit more risk. So I would agree with you. For example, like actually, what I would say, if for example we were to play a 4-3-3, I would maybe consider not selling Willock. But I don't think Arteta is like, you have to go in terms of what you've seen. When Arteta first came in, he used the 4-2-3-1. Since ESR came in, he's sort of reverted back to a 4-2-3-1. He's tried a 4-3-3 a couple of times, but it looks like 4-2-3-1 is sort of the stable formation that he wants to settle on. So in that formation, you got to ask the question again: where does Willock fit in? Do you know what I mean? So because he doesn't fit in Arteta's opinion of a double pivot, and he's not a 10. So yeah, and to your point about having a goal scoring midfielder, I would agree. But I actually also think, and I've said this from the start, I actually think ESR's got potential to score quite a lot of goals as well.
He does.
And he has that same knack of arriving in the box that, the likes of Willock and Ramsey did as well, but he's also a lot more technically secure in terms of his decision making and stuff as well. So Ant raised that point in the group, and I agree with that. Actually, I think we should demand more from him, not just to put pressure on him, but just because I think he can do it as well. So yeah. I think he can score goals. I wouldn't make that.
I wouldn't put pressure on the young player. Now, ESR, technically, I think he's underrated. Even though technically his execution is better than I even thought it was, and I thought he was technically good. So I completely understand the thought that he could do it, but I don't think you should be putting the burden on a young player to be getting goals like that.
So sorry, just to come back on that quickly. I would normally agree with you, but what I'm saying is, in terms of the way Arteta sets up, right, there is heavy pressure on that front. Whoever's playing in that front four has to contribute. Bearing in mind that, like we said, that double pivot is never going to contribute goals because he doesn't expect it. He doesn't allow them to roam forward. So the pressure on whoever's playing within that front four, however you want to configure it, whether you play with three midfielders and a striker or the 2 creators, 2 scorers, they have to contribute. They all have to contribute because this has been one of our lowest goal scoring seasons ever. So I think however he chooses to configure it, and like I said, I wouldn't. That's not how I would solely judge ESR, because obviously he contributes a lot more than goals in it. But I think if he is to be trusted with the 10, and to be a starting 10 next season, then I think we do have to play some sort of expectation in terms of output.
And I think the same goes for Saka as well, because if we talk about Saka's form as of late, it's kind of gone off the cliff a bit. And I know that sounds unfair to say because he's 19 years old and we basically lumped our whole season on his shoulders, really and truly. But he hasn't quite been at the races as of late, has he? And what it's just interesting to know, like, and have a conversation about what are the expectations for these players next season, because I would imagine they're going to be important players next season. And what are we expecting from Saka? You know, he got how many goals has he got this season? Is it 5? Is it 5 goals or 6 goals?
6 or 7?
Yeah, I think so. I'll get it up here. But what are we looking for Saka next season? Obviously an improvement, but what is enough?
To be honest, I don't really want to put pressure on these guys, man.
But we have to, man. Otherwise, we're just.
This is why we buy. So really and truly, if Saka's not playing well like he hasn't been for the last few weeks, we should be pulling him out. We should be pulling him out, sitting him down for a while, and bringing him back in. We should be developing these guys. We don't want to start now. Okay, you guys are good. You've broken through this season. Now you're it. Like, you need to go fly. So this is where we need to actually recruit in the market, and we need to recruit in the market. So whoever Willian should be a good player who should be able to perform. Pepe should be a good player who should be able to perform. We need another player like a Grealish on the other side who should be able to perform. And then we should be dipping these young players. They should be getting substantial minutes. Don't get me wrong, but we should be being able to. We can't be dependent on them. We should be able to be pulling them out when their form's not good, because you're going to get ESR who's going to have a slump. You're going to get Saka who's going to have a slump, and then he's going to have a bit in red hot form where he plays 10, 15 games and he's quality. When you let them play those 10, 15 games, but when he's not hot like this, you pull him out. And that's what. So we have to recruit. We have to recruit senior pros to help these young men through, because we can't be dependent on them and just play them and flog them every week. It's not on.
I think that point is interesting, just because especially with next season, as we're likely just to have the Prem. So then the question then becomes, how much expectation do you put on them? Because at the end of the day, next season is key. We have to try and get back into the top 4 again. So it's either, and playing one game a week, there's probably less scope for rotation and less scope for game time, because you want to have, in an ideal world, a settled 11. So I get Leroy's point, but I do also just think, we need to settle on, and Arteta needs to settle on what he thinks is his best team going forward, and in terms of where he thinks are the weak points in terms of contribution, and how he seeks to address that, and whose role it is to contribute. So for me, like, for example, I totally get, obviously, like I said, ESR and Saka, we do need to be careful with them. They're young players. They're going to blow hot and cold. And I don't think we should be too harsh on them when they blow cold. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they shouldn't be relied upon to be the difference makers every week. But at the same time, if you decide that Saka is your starting winger, and say next season, 38 league games, say he plays 30 out of those 38 league games, starts 30 out of those 38 league games, you're going to want to expect, a decent return. And we're going to need a decent return from him if we're going to do well. Do you know what I mean? So, and I've got a lot of faith in Saka, just because I think he showed me so much this season that I didn't think he had. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, I think he's got 7. Did you say it was 7 all comps? And I think,
I don't know all comps, but he's got 5 in the league.
So he's got 5 in the league. I think he's got a couple. I think he's got like 7 all comps. So, and I've seen Saka miss a lot of presentable chances this season. So
he's missed our third most big chances this season.
Yeah. So I
7 goals, 10 assists. He's got.
Right, that's a great return, and I don't think it would take much for Saka to hit a 10-10. I mean, he could have hit a 10-10 this season. Do you know what I mean? So, and I would, if I was Arteta, that's the sort of expectation I would be setting for him again next season, a 10-10. I think that's fair. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. His finishing certainly needs some work. I mean, fucking hell. Some of the chances he's missed this season have been really bad, especially his 1-on-1s. He doesn't, when he goes through on goal, he doesn't fill you with any confidence. And I always say this, I think Mason Greenwood has kind of skewed things a little bit. because 18, 19-year-olds don't normally finish like Mason Greenwood finishes, you know. And by all intents and purposes, 5 goals, 4 assists in your first full Premier League season as a winger isn't too shabby. To be fair, it's not too bad. For as a 18, 19-year-old. So yeah, I think there's definitely, you know, things like finishing, you expect him to get better at that. So if you expect him to get better at that, then naturally we will see an improvement, just like we have in other facets of his game as well. Before we finish up, I just wanted to get you guys' opinions on some of the transfer rumors we've heard this week. So, well, the first one is David Luiz confirmed leaving. How do you guys feel about that?
Hallelujah. I hate
Do you know what though? Do you know what, Leroy? I do agree with you in the fact that I was against the David Luiz signing from the start, like as were you. However, this season I do feel like we're very much reliant on him. I do feel like if we had David Luiz this season, we'd be in the Europa League final. If we had him for this latter part of the season, I do feel like we'd have probably made top 6. And I know that's probably optimistic thinking. I just think a lot of our issues in attack actually stem from the lack of David Luiz not being there.
Because everyone else is shit. So
yeah, everyone else is shit. We've got to replace him appropriately.
If we had a reasonable ball playing centre back, none of this would be a problem. It's because his replacement at right centre back is Rob Holding, who literally has a club foot. I swear he has.
He can't play football, man.
Because he's got a club foot. The levels are different, innit? So it's not because of David Luiz. Because okay, fair enough. In terms of towards the end of the season, he hasn't had as many brain fart moments. Maybe that's because he wasn't playing as much.
To be fair, this season, I would say this season.
But still,
I think he's been our best centre back this season.
Yeah, it probably has, but that's not saying that much.
No,
and yeah, he's just someone I've never liked, don't really like. I know I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans come around and change their mind. I still haven't changed my mind. I do not trust him. Never feel comfortable with him. And good riddance. I'm not really feeling him. So goodbye. See you later, Chelsea reject.
Sean, feel the same?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. Actually, I think I thought last season he was actually a travesty. I thought he was so bad last season.
He was
generally actually this season. I actually think he's been okay. I actually think he's been decent. Like not even by like calamitous standards. I just generally think he's been good. Like, and I've actually felt more secure with him back there. That's not to say obviously that we can't do better. Because I'm happy he's going because really and truthfully, next season should be about Saliba, but I'm already rattled. The last 2 weeks, the amount of links to different centre backs I've been seeing every day has been making my head so hot. Like that, it just I've been getting into arguments.
We need one, Sean. We need one.
So don't get me wrong. I wouldn't disagree if it meant that it would be to the detriment of Saliba, but I know if we sign a centre back, it's going to be to the detriment of Saliba. So
I'm hoping it won't be.
No. Because what people are saying is that obviously push Rob Holding further down, but we know that's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Arteta likes Rob Holding. We have a big enough sample size to see that he likes Rob Holding.
Does he like Rob Holding, or is he our only fit right centre back?
No, Callum Chambers is there. I really and truthfully, I would prefer.
Is Rob Holding? Is Callum Chambers a better right back than is Callum Chambers a better centre back than Rob Holding?
Callum Chambers plays football like an adolescent. I'm sorry, like he just looks every time he's playing on a centre back. He looks like he's on skates. He looks like he's. You know how Mustafi was always on the edge of his physical 24/7. He reminds me.
I think fullback suits Chambers more than centre back. Personally, I get what you're saying from a ball playing point of view. Chambers is head and shoulders above Holding, but as an actual defender, which is primarily your primary job is defending, right? And I just don't feel confident in Chambers, man. I don't feel. I think it's too rash in a tackle.
Do you feel confident in Holding?
I don't. And it's like choosing between
But also
shit
I'm
and
saying in the first few matches that Arteta actually came, Chambers was playing centre back before he had that ACL, and I thought he looked decent, to be fair. I think, don't get me wrong, I don't think Chambers is a great centre back. However, when you're talking about options, I think I would rather have him there. And considering the emphasis Arteta has put on in terms of build up from the back, now one thing you cannot say about Callum Chambers is that he's very good technically. Do you know what I mean? So he can actually pass the ball. And if you're placing that much emphasis in terms of your build up, having an option from the back, then I would have gone with him. But yeah, back to that point, for example, so next season for me, because I think this is gonna be another debate like it was last summer. Saliba's going to be a massive debate again, because I think Arteta's quotes in that press conference yesterday left a lot to be desired.
What did he say?
So basically, he said, yes, we've been watching Saliba, and he will come back here for pre-season, and then we will discuss the individual role of every player here and what role they will have in the squad. And that for me, like whenever he's spoken about Saliba, he's never spoken with confidence. He's never said anything that makes me feel confident. Do you know what I mean? So, and if he wanted to, he could, because you've seen how he's spoken about other players within the squad. So, and also you have to remember again, we're coming back to the fact that we're only playing 38 league games next season. You might have like some cup games, but maximum, we're not going to play more than like 50 games next season, max. Do you know what I mean? So if you're deciding now that Saliba is only going to be a rotation option, how many games is he actually going to play? And then again, you come back to the point, is that good for his development? That's not good for his development. Do you know what I mean? So, because like I said, I would rather have him, like people talk about, he's not ready, Gabriel, look at the mistakes they're making. I'm like, okay, cool. But the rest of our centre-backs make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? I would rather lean into the potential we've bought and know that, okay, cool, I'm going to have teething problems with these guys, but I know that their ceiling is exponentially higher than what I've seen with Rob Holding, who struggles against anybody with a pulse and has a heart attack anytime someone fast comes near him. So for me, if we sign a centre back, I'm going to be livid, and I pretty much think that will signify the end of Saliba at Arsenal. I'm almost 100% confident.
Imagine if we had Saliba this whole season, like mistakes or not, teething problems or not, and he played this whole season like Fofana has, and then what the player that we would have going into the season after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that annoys me, when you come back to the point about is he ready? Arteta says he needs that transition year. Well, listen, when he was at St Etienne last year, he played 14 league games. Wesley Fofana, who was deemed ready by Leicester, only played 16 league games. So he played 2 league games more than William Saliba. Now, obviously, I get there's less pressure at Leicester. And your mistakes are probably less scrutinised. And I've seen Fofana make quite a few mistakes this season.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah, no. However, in the cup final, I thought he was great. But also, it's a learning experience. Do you know what I mean? A 19-year-old centre-back is not going to be the finished article. But what you've done, Leicester spent close to well over 30 mil on Fofana. Do you know what I mean? They know that they're investing for the future. Do you know what I mean? And I'd rather invest for the future. If you were going to say that this season was going to be a transition year, and we were going to because what Arteta has done, Arteta didn't pick a team this season that was built for the future, nor did he pick a team that was to win now. So I didn't really know what he was trying to do. Do you know what I mean? So, so I just think there's so many more questions than answers. And I think the Saliba stuff, I think that story hasn't run its course. And I still think there's so much more that isn't being said about that situation. And it really annoys me.
And you know what really pisses me off about the Saliba situation? It's like, I would always rather a player who is young and is going to make mistakes than a player who just lacks the ability. So Rob Holding, he is incapable of doing certain things as a defender. And you put him in a certain situation, it's just literally impossible. Saliba can do everything that's needed to be done as a centre-back, and he might make the odd mistake. I'd much rather lean into that. Sorry, this Saliba thing actually touches me. Like, I'm getting hot.
It makes me so angry, because yesterday, what was it? This week I've seen us linked with Tosin Adarabioyo of Fulham. I actually quite like him, but he's not the level. I've seen us linked with Joachim Anderson. So both of those Fulham centre-backs, do you know what I mean? So who are just not the level. Like, I don't understand. What's his gripe with Saliba? It does not make any sense to me. Why do you not like him? Is it because you didn't sign him? But you signed Pablo Mari. Do you know what I mean? Who's not better than him? He's not better than him. Like, and it even annoys me. Like, I've been seeing the stick that Gabriel's actually been getting this season as well. Like, but then people have 101 defenses for for Murray and Holding, and it really rattles me. I don't know how you can have this, these slow geriatric centre-backs who are not good on the turn, who struggle against anyone with a pulse. Like when you've seen how Liverpool defend, obviously when Gomez and Van Dijk are fit, they literally just leave those two back by themselves because they're very confident in those two to handle 1v1 situations, massive acres of space behind them. Like, you know, look at the one Gabriel prevented for Zaha this evening. Imagine Mario holding in that position. What would have happened? Do you know what I mean? Like, what was it? Mari let Havertz go last week because he was shit scared. Like, he just knew he didn't.
That being said, I did see Mari chase down. Was it Vardy?
Vardy, yeah. But come on, this is like a finished 34-year-old Jamie Vardy. This is the same Jamie Vardy of a couple years ago. So,
no, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. And I do agree with you. I think the centre back. I'm all for signing another centre back as long as Rob Holding goes. But I do agree with you. It's one or the other. I think if Holding doesn't go, it's likely going to be something's going to happen with Saliba, and if that does happen, that's a real shame. And I would just hate the club for doing that because it's just the biggest waste of time going. And somewhat we're gonna. He's just going to go and become a fantastic player for someone else.
And don't get it wrong, we will regret that decision immensely. He will go on to be a very, very good centre back elsewhere because people keep saying, you guys are hyping because you said he looked better than Fofana, because he did look better than Fofana for Saint Etienne. He did look better than Fofana.
I watched every single game they played last season. Every single game they played last season, and to the point where I highlighted Fofana and said, this other guy looks sick.
He's good. Yeah.
But Saliba was 110% the blue chip prospect. Not even close.
No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Another fan favorite that may be leaving this summer is Granit Xhaka. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know how real these links are, but you know, who has he been linked to? I think I've just seen the parts of where he wants to leave.
Gladbach. Well,
right.
Give me that praise and worship. Sham. Give me that.
We give glory to the Lord.
Yeah. I mean, God knows. When's the last time I went to church? I will roll church. No problem.
Yeah. No. Do you know
Did we get decent money for Xhaka?
Yes, I think. Well, it depends who he goes to, but I think Xhaka has a market definitely. I think there are teams like, for example, I know Conte at Inter loves Xhaka. He's spoken about Xhaka bare times. I think teams on the continent would definitely buy Xhaka just because he has a unique skill set. And funnily enough, like even though I want to move on from him and we need to move on from him just because he holds the keys to our midfield and he's held it for too long and we need to change that complete profile. He actually does give us some unique qualities that will be actually quite tough to replace. So that is something that would be hard to replace. And I'm still not actually sure how to replace it specifically. Well, actually, I am sure. I've got a couple names in mind, but I just don't think we have a hope in hell of getting them, basically. Do you know what I mean? So
are you guys obviously quite chuffed about the prospect of Xhaka leaving, as am I. Although I have to admit, this season again, he's been someone who I feel like has done a lot better. Luiz and Xhaka have been one of some of the few players who have actually improved under Arteta. I don't know what that's down to, really, but
Xhaka's been good, in my opinion, this season.
Yeah, he has.
I don't think anyone can really, who actually watches Arsenal and is unbiased, can say Xhaka has not been good. But we know enough about Xhaka. He's shown us who he is. A leopard never changes spots. He is the lightning rod for the mediocrity that has been Arsenal FC for the last however many years. We need versatile players who have a different skill set, and we need to go in a different direction. And I feel like Xhaka is a very powerful character, and he's got the keys to the team. I don't care what no one says. If he's not captain, he definitely has the keys to the team. The fact that we get him out of the team and out of the squad, it's a real mentality shift and a big change. And I think it's a big statement of intent from the higher ups in the squad, in the club. Sorry. So I think we need to get him out, and I think that would be a big move for us and a big change in direction.
Agreed. So the players that we are linked with, three of them that I've seen: Camavinga, Sunderberg. Still never seen that geezer play.
Bro, you are the most British you I've
Who?
ever in my life.
Who?
Sanderberg.
Ain't that his name? What's his name?
Burge, man.
Burge.
Yeah.
Not Arab.
Hey,
Oh
Liz,
my
man.
god, you're something else.
I can just see like you probably got like a chicken dipper and some ketchup.
Custard creams, mate.
Hey!
Custard
You got a cup of tea there as well.
Yeah, well, I finished my tea.
I want to tell all the listeners, yeah. One time I met Lewis, right? He used to break custard creams into about 17 different pieces to eat. And we all thought he had Asperger's because of that. Because it used to literally, who does that? We break them into pieces. And
I broke it into 2 pieces.
17 pieces, no less, honestly.
Anyway, the other player we've obviously been linked to is Basuma. We've been continuously linked to Basuma. Are you guys interested in any of those 3?
So, do you know what? I sort of to and fro with Basuma because there are stuff that he does that I like and stuff that he does that I'm not necessarily too keen on. But however,
like what?
I think he could be. So, for example, athletically, he's great. And that is already a vast improvement in terms of what we have. I think he's even better than Partey athletically. However, I think at times his passing can be a bit stale. I think we would need a bit more. I do like how he transitions with it because he can carry the ball. And I've actually, I don't know if you guys seen him shoot. He can actually proper shoot as well. So he does have certain qualities. I just feel like
I thought Partey could proper shoot before he came as well.
But listen, so we need to start docking his wages when he shoots. Yeah, I feel like because of what Xhaka is, and Xhaka's a very high octane passer, you know, in terms of clocking well over 70 passes each game. So it would. How we would go about replacing that would be interesting. Whether we would give, because I think Partey has the potential to do that as well. So I would be interested to see that. I don't know. I just feel like I'm just not sold. Maybe I need to watch more, and maybe I'll be sold.
I'm the same. I'm not sold, and I've said for a while now. I think Basuma is a fantastic player. Let me not beat around the bush regarding that. However, the things that annoy me is what we've seen especially since Partey's coming to the team with Xhaka, is the importance of having 2 people who can both be the reference point in midfield. And by that, I mean for receiving the ball, always being available, and in terms of output, in terms of passing. Because remember when it was only Xhaka and he used to get pressed out of the game, and that would kill our whole game. That doesn't happen when you've got Partey there as well. Now, my problem with Basuma, in a similar way to Sharon was just saying, I think he's fantastic athletically. I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best ball winner in the league outside of Kante. I think he's really good at carrying. I think he's really press resistant. Obviously, he can shoot, but that's not really what we're buying him for. My problem is not actually so much his passing. He doesn't show for the ball. So I find that when you're building from the back, as we do, we build from the back. He doesn't go and get it. He stands in positions where he can't really receive the ball, and I find it so frustrating. I'm looking at him and I'm watching him. I'm like, go get the ball, bro. It feels like he doesn't want anything to do with the build up. He feels like he's just not really interested. When he gets it, he doesn't lose it. He like I say, he's pretty press resistant. But
Is that a tactical thing?
Huh?
Tactical thing?
I don't think so. I just think it's his style of play. Maybe it is, but it frustrates me. And I want someone who's going to be a lot more, because we keep a lot of the ball. We do keep relatively a good amount of position, and we're trying to increase that. And I want someone who is heavily involved in actually progressing play as well. And he can carry, but you can't do that all the time.
I would say my main criticism of someone like Basuma is he's quite risk adverse in the pass. I don't think he will force play as much as we need. That would be my one concern.
Also, there's another thing which is very important to bear in mind. If we do decide to make Basuma like our marquee central midfield signing in the summer, him and Partey are both buggering off to AFCON in January, and so that's your first choice.
With El Neni as well.
With El Neni as well, who's back. So those are all your centre mids just wiped out.
It'll be Sanderberg. It'll be
Wait. Who does Basuma play for?
Ivory Coast. He's Pepe's best friend. That's Pepe's
No,
best friend.
He's not Ivory Coast.
He's Ivorian.
Oh, it says here it's Malian.
I'm pretty sure he's Ivorian. Am I wrong? I might be wrong. I thought he was Ivorian.
No, so all right. So Sophus, he plays for Mali.
Oh, okay.
So he was born in Ivory Coast.
Oh, right. Okay.
He plays for Mali. I don't know if Mali are at AFCON.
They're there anyway. So he'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're there. So
interesting. That is a. Ghana made it. Have they? They made it.
I think just about, mate.
What about Nigeria?
Of course we're there. I don't understand why you're asking.
I swear you didn't make the last one.
No, we did make the last one.
Oh, okay. All right. Just double checking, man. Just double checking. That is a big concern.
So
with that one.
So that would be another reason for me to advert it, just because that would be ridiculous. Like, it's generally ridiculous. So, but again, it then raises the questions of who you go after, because I really like Camavinga, but also at the same time, he's very young, very, very young. Like that's an 18-year-old basically, and he does have big potential. But then you're looking at next season, you want someone who you think can come in and sort of hit the ground running and who can perform to a high level straight away.
What type of player is Camavinga?
Camavinga is very, very press resistant. So what's that?
He's an all-rounder.
Yeah, he's an all-rounder. He's very good on it. So he's a left footer. So if you're looking to create, the angles that Xhaka did, but he's very fast as well across the ground.
Him and Partey would be a good partnership.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, that.
All right, then just do that then. To be
fair, but also you're competing against teams like PSG, Bayern.
They don't want to pay the money, man. They don't want to pay the money.
But people did raise a good point. His contract expires in 2022, so he might be available
for a year.
What do you mean?
He could stay just for another year and go for free.
No. Rennes, I don't think Rennes will allow it. They'll sell him this summer, so they'll probably try and see who's going to offer the most money, basically.
Do that then. 40 million.
I was against the Camavinga signing, even though potentially it would be an unbelievable partnership. But I just feel that we don't really want the adaptation. He's 18 years old. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for the Premier League, even though he's an unreal talent. I'm just not so sure. And he's, again, another one that's been hot and cold. So apparently he's not had a very good season, even though everyone can see his. So we've got enough of a young base, in my opinion, with ESR, Saka, Martinelli, Balogun. Obviously, Gabriel for a defender is pretty young. Kieran Tierney's getting older a little bit. Saliba. I think we have enough young players. I feel like in terms of our squad planning, we need mid players. We need 23 to 25-year-olds who are ready to do it now, because I just feel like that's better for our squad planning, because we really need to turn up the volume and improve pretty quickly. So I'm not really looking for another 3-4 year project, because our striker is 32 years old this season or something.
So what you're telling me, Leroy, is Sander Berge. That's what you're telling me.
I'm not telling you, Sander Berge. See him. If he is if we are selling El Neni, Guendouzi, and Torreira, and he is a third or fourth choice centre mid, we're bringing in. No problem.
Is he good?
Do you know the thing about Sander Berge? It's very funny when you watch him, because he's massive. He's 6'5", but he gets across the ground a lot better than you'd imagine. Like, he covers ground very, very well. The only thing I would say about him, though, is that he seems to have quite a nasty injury record. I did some research earlier today, and I was like, this guy's picking up quite a few injuries.
Because he's only played 15 games this season.
So part of the reason we're also linked with him is because that one of our assistants, that Albert Stuyvenberg, managed him again. So he's got links, but also
ain't that the guy who bought in Runnison?
No. That was the goalkeeper coach. But
I don't trust any of these, man. I ain't doing this referral based.
But also another thing as well, that's Odegaard's best friend. So in terms of if you, I don't know if that means much in the grand scheme of things as well. So, but that's another, like him and Bissouma. Those links have been floating about for quite a while. So I think that there's probably fuel to fire in terms of both of those.
Definitely prefer Basuma to him, but if he's coming in as one of our rotation options, I'm all over it. I think that's a decent rotation option. I think he's a decent player.
I quite like him. I think because he ended up at Sheffield United, bearing in mind he was linked with much bigger clubs, but he chose to go to Sheffield United for playing time. So, but obviously, because a lot of people don't like watching Sheffield United, they probably haven't paid much attention to him. But I actually don't think he's bad. I think he's quite decent, actually.
Would you bring him in as a starter? As our starting
option? No, not as a starter. Like for me, the starter would be like, in an ideal world, it'd be like a Saul or like a Camavinga, that profile, like a left-footed deep midfielder, but who can transition, who can progress the ball. That's the sort of guy I'm looking at. But
I would sell my left bollock for Saul.
Yeah, I think we all. I think we all would, but yeah, that one's never happening, boy. So, so yeah. But
does he start every week for Atletico?
Yeah.
Well, you know how good Saul is.
Oh. Yeah. I would.
I don't care about his kidney problems. I don't care about what.
but he signed like a 9-year deal at Atletico, so he's got like another 6-year contract. 6 years to go on.
He's a lifer.
No,
he's a lifer.
Now they've played a blinder there. They played a blinder. Well done, Atletico.
So is there? Well, I mean, you guys haven't really, you don't really want any of them. So where do we go from here? Like, me personally, I'm sold by all of them. Give us all 3. I'm happy with that.
Part of the reason I feel like it's hard to talk about targets is just because I'm still not completely sure what Arteta wants. Like he talks a lot about specificity, but he then contradicts himself with some of the moves he makes and what he does in games as well. So I just don't know. Like that's it. Like if you had a set system where you'd be like, all right, cool. I know this profile. Like the only people I can speak with like a surety that I would want is like a Grealish or a Camavinga, like just those sort of guys. But bearing in mind, Grealish will be like 80 mil, Camavinga will probably be like 40, 50 mil as well.
Okay, 120 million, but that's you set for the next 5 to 10 years.
But then we still got other work to do. We still need another centre mid. We still need a right back. We need a backup left back. So there's, and obviously the Kroenke.
Bertrand on a free.
Don't make me sick. But
can we talk a little bit about that? But go on, finish your point anyway.
No. So it just depends. Like obviously the Kroenkes are doing up PR at the moment, but it remains to be seen how much they are truly willing to spend and how much they do spend. So the proof will be in the pudding around that. And obviously, but yeah, I mean, if we do get those guys, then I won't turn my nose up to like Bertrand on the free. I can't lie to you. So. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say, right? Like because I think me personally, I don't care about the Bertrand thing too much. I think he's a solid Premier League player. People make references to the Cedric signing. I think Bertrand's a better player than Cedric personally. And also, Bertrand is actually a player that we need. We signed Cedric when we already had Bellerin, we already had Maitland-Niles, we already had Chambers. Did we have anyone else? Yeah, he came in as like the fourth, as like one of 4 right backs. So I didn't see the point of that signing when we made it anyway. But Bertrand, he satisfies a need in the team. And if he needs to play 15 to 20 games a season, I don't think that's a particularly bad signing personally, and it allows us to do business in other areas of the team without spending any money. So I don't mind it. As long as Tierney's fit and we can keep him fit for 75 to 80% of the season, I don't really mind Bertrand being the second option personally. Leroy, what are you thinking?
I'm not that mad at it. The problem is because I don't care about backups that much. I'm really focused on the first 11. So I understand that I did get a cheap backup. I just don't think Bertrand's the right choice because I swear Patrick Van Aanholt, has he signed a new deal or is he also on a free?
I think he hasn't signed. Palace have got about 12 players leaving in the summer.
Tyreek Mitchell's just signed, right?
Yeah, Tyreek Mitchell.
I think Bertrand's just about to fall off a cliff, and I feel like he's going to come to us and he's going to stink. I think he's going to be terrible. So I think we're not going to get this solid Prem Pro that we envisage getting. I think he's actually going to be really bad. He's at that age profile, that last move. I think Patrick Van Aanholt's a bit younger, and I prefer him as a player. And I think he's more he's more of a replacement for Tierney in that he's a dynamic on it attacker rather than Bertrand, who's just more of a sort of steady Eddie in both directions. And I feel like Bertrand's just been declining season on season. So
but he's played a lot more than Bertrand than Van Aanholt has this season, hasn't he? And he's only 1 year older.
But Van Aanholt has had that Tyreek Mitchell ahead of him, and I just prefer him stylistically. So it's just a preference, really. I think he's just a better going forward, and I think he'd be better at coming in and replacing what Tierney gives us rather than Bertrand, because I think Bertrand is going to struggle with the energy that Tierney gives us and the attacking prowess.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, people are saying Lewis hasn't learned his lesson. I just don't really care too much for backup roles, if I'm being honest. I think as long as the guy is solid enough, I don't really. If we can go without spending money on someone, and we can use that money like for example, these nice players we talk about, Grealish, Camavinga, these guys, if we can really set our sights on them, then I will happily take a Bertrand or a Van Aanholt or whoever it is. I can't say I don't watch Southampton like that to be saying, but what I have seen from Ryan Bertrand in the past is he looks a lot like Anton. And that's about as much as I know, to be honest. He looks a lot like Anton, but
for years and years, Anton just loves players that looks like him, bro.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. And it hasn't. And you know what? And it hasn't paid. And it hasn't paid out well in dividends. It really hasn't. It's Nathan Redmond, Mari Gray, like all these guys are just so shit. But anyway. Is there anyone else we've been linked to worth talking about? I saw Dennis Zakaria.
No, stinks. Next.
No. Has there been anyone else?
No. That's pretty much it for the moment.
Right. Okay. I'm sure there will be loads more links to come. But on that note, I think we should we'll call it an evening. Leroy, it was great to have you back.
Good to be back.
Hopefully you'll be on a few more in over the postseason, and we can do some fun medical shit.
Yeah.
Well,
In the next few weeks,
I guess you're trying to get a break from all of that. To be fair,
in the next few weeks, I'll be on a lot more often. So, more weeks of hard work, and then I'm about. So,
and you're retiring.
Yeah, I'm retiring, man. I'm not doing no work anymore.
And Sean, great to have you on as well. We'll try and do some Patreon shit this week. Maybe we'll do I don't know. We'll do something. We'll do something. We'll have something posted on Patreon this week anyway. I'm not too sure what it'll be. But if you are interested in our extra content, you can sign up to our Patreon. Minimum £3 a month. So what's that? Nothing at all. So so get signed up to that. Links in the bio for that. And we'll be back with a normal podcast next week anyway. Hopefully above Spurs, but then that will probably mean we're in the Europa Conference. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I don't know quite what I want. Personally, I'd rather finish above Spurs, if I'm being honest, because them touchline Hotspurs guys, they're very cheeky. And Nigerian Dan, also known as German Dan now because of his German motor, he's got a £60 bet on with Tobes. So I would love to hear Dan and Tobes go back at it again. So I'm hoping we do win, actually, just for that. Anyway, guys, I can't. Yeah, like I said, I can't wait for Dan to tell Tobes that he's going to up the rent or whatever he said last time. Anyway, guys, take it easy, and we'll be back next week.
In a bit, everybody.
Take care.